Welcome to Daddy's Podcast.
This is the Redefining Plastics Podcast. Welcome to the Redefining Plastics Podcast. My name is Justin Riney. We are going to talk the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance today. My favorite topic with some of my favorite people in the industry. So we got Richard Shaw with America Styrenics. We got Joe Grzyb with EFP and Erin Haas of the Plastics Industry Association, all returning guests, which is a record for this show. But thank you all for joining. Why don't we start with our fearless leader, Richard. Give a quick update on who you are and what you're doing with PSRA.
All right, Justin, good morning. Thank you for having me on your podcast again. Yeah, so Richard Shaw, I lead the sustainability function for America Styrenics, and I've had the pleasure of serving as chair of the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance here in its first year. And very happy to kind of take note of where we are as we close out this year and reflect upon all the things that we've accomplished. And I look forward to handing off the chair to you, Justin, on the next year as we roll into 2026. You know, it's been a fantastic year, and I was just kind of thinking about some of the big takeaways. Our value chain alliance, which is comprised of people who are in the styrenics value chain, whether they make monomer, they make resin, they convert it into wonderful products for downstream customers or recyclers, you name it, have come together, and we've done a number of things to fundamentally improve the sustainability and recycling of all types of polystyrene. One of those things is we've gotten a lot smarter, and we know a whole lot more about this material and its recycling story. And with help from independent third-party experts, we understand now what recycling access looks for consumers. And fundamentally, it's a better story than you'd be led to believe, where over 100 million Americans can recycle at least one or more different types of polystyrene. And we've also learned a lot more about end markets that take post-use polystyrene and repurpose it into new products. And the takeaway there is experts have helped us understand that when it comes to EPS, expanded polystyrene, in their words, in the U.S. and Canada, there is a robust network of end markets that want this material put back into new products. And for rigid polystyrene, there's a solid foundation of end markets as well. So very encouraging. And then, as you know, we've been really involved in working with stakeholders around North America to stand up and support circularity projects that are going to improve the collection and recycling. We can collect this material and connect it to the end markets that want it. Several high-profile projects, whether in Colorado, Baltimore, Nashville, Tennessee, Mexico City, you name it. A lot of good work being done there. And then lastly, we've been involved in a number of conversations with people who have shared interest. I'm thinking of NGOs and others who fundamentally want to see, materials collected, recycled, don't want to see it end up in the environment, in the landfill. We share that value. And we've been engaged in a lot of good conversations with those folks to kind of work on areas of kind of common ground. And we're making progress there as well. So there you go.
Wow, that's very expansive. Joe, why don't you give a little introduction to yourself, your company, and what you're doing, and maybe why you joined the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance?
Absolutely. I'm Joe Grzyb. I'm the Director of Sustainability for EFP. EFP is a manufacturer of EPS in natural fiber insulation and protective packaging. We have 6 plants across 5 different states. Myself, my background's in chemical engineering and have had a career in a number of different startups and technologies. EFP joined the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance to push forward the narrative that this material really is recyclable. I come at it from a unique perspective in that I started a company called Nature-Cool back in 2019, specifically to displace EPS in temperature-controlled shipping and natural fiber-based insulation. I ended off merging with EFP in 2022, and that began my journey to EPS. Me, like many people, had a perception that, hey, this material is not recyclable. It just goes into the trash. Boy, did I get an education. And so I come to it from that perspective, that this material is very different than what I thought it was. I think the PSRA has been working really hard this year to get the word out. As we're out on the road talking to people, talking to customers, talking to NGOs, a very common reaction is, "Oh wow, I never knew."
Yeah, I had no idea you were doing that.
Oh my God, you're kidding me. But we've under Richard's leadership, we've gotten some really interesting meetings. Appliance Manufacturers Association, Home Appliance Manufacturers Association, had a very good meeting with them. We attended their annual meeting in the spring, and once again, these folks desperately want to keep EPS in the mix of their packaging solutions because of the performance, because of the cost, because of what it does. And this association is all about trying to help make that happen by engaging with NGOs, by engaging with regulators, and by frankly challenging the membership to stand up recycling operations at each of their plants, to stand up recycling operations, and making sure that we start to incorporate recycled content into our products. We at EFP are taking that very seriously. We are pushing like heck to have a high level of recycled content in our EPS products going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're small organizations, right? Like EPSIA is a great industry association that supports the EPS transport packaging groups, and they're just small, and they've got great data, great information. They do awesome work for the industry. Just not a lot of people know about it. And there's not a lot of people that are aware, specifically legislators. Like you talked about the shock that you hear in people's voices when you tell them like the recycle rate for EPS transport packaging and what's going on in that industry and how proactive you all have been. And they just kind of look at you like, oh, I had no idea. They had no clue you guys were doing all of that. It's been fun. It's been a fun journey.
Yeah, I think one of the goals there with the regulators, just giving the material a fair shake. Let's not go into a decision on what is the best environmentally friendly packaging solution with a lot of preconceived ideas. Let's go in and look at the facts. We had yesterday a very positive meeting with the folks from Oregon DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, and they are material neutral. It's hey, show me the facts. Let's let the data speak. Let's let life cycle assessments speak, and we can make our decision based on real data and what the best overall solution is for the environment. And many, not every time, no technology is perfect for every application. But a lot of times that the EPS is the right environmental solution.
Yeah. So when we started this whole thing, I had very little experience with the Plastics Industry Association. So the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance is within the plastics industry, plastics organization, and we've been very impressed and very excited about the support that we received. And one of the biggest people involved in that whole process is Erin Haas. Erin Haas is not on camera today because I did a very bad job of explaining what it was that we were doing.
It's my fault.
So she's going to have a glamour shot every time she talks, and I'm very excited about what that glamour shot's going to look like. But Erin, why don't you introduce yourself, Plastics Industry Associate, and kind of what you guys do?
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. I sent you a glamour headshot, so you can You can promptly post that on. Well, thanks for having me again. Erin, I'm based here in Washington, D.C. In the Plastics Industry Association. We are the purpose-driven organization that supports the entire plastic supply chain. So our members are 700 plus, and like you and Joe mentioned earlier, a lot of our member companies are third and fourth generation plastic manufacturers, recyclers, molders, equipment suppliers, whatever whatever it runs the gamut, we represent those members. And, part of my charge at Plastics, I work on my government affairs team, is to support PSRA. And we're doing great work. And, it is tough out there with different materials. Legislators, regulators, people just want to ban things instead of understanding why something is needed. Yes, it can be recycled. Yes, there are end markets for it. And part of our charge is to show that. And, it's not easy, but we have a great team. Again, Richard has been unbelievable as a leader for this group.
Bird dogging.
Joe has been steadfast, as his lieutenant. I mean, it's not an easy subject because like you said, it's kind of niche in a way. A lot of, I would say, just from speaking from like a regulatory or legislative hat, people they just know that their TV comes in some sort of transport packaging. They don't really understand, if they were to ban that, what would you replace it with? And, it is our job to advance sustainability, keep plastic out of the environment, keep things away from landfills, and just, promote the industry. And that's pretty much what I do every day in the different political work that I do at Plastics. And it's a great mission. So thanks for having me again.
And thanks for the support. Honestly, none of this stuff gets done unless we have people driving it. And I'll say this. When we kicked this off, so Richard and I we talked about this probably 2 years ago when we first started discussing, hey, we really need an industry effort to make this happen. And in my wildest dreams, I did not think we would had the impact that we did in 2025. I thought we were going to get things done. I really thought we had the motivation, we had the need within the industry to get things done, but I truly believe we got more done this year than I ever thought possible. And so I really want to take some time at the beginning of this to talk about what it is we've done in 25, why it's important, and what do we think we're going to get out of it. So I want to start with Richard. I know you kind of gave some of the projects that we've done and all of that stuff, but from your perspective, kind of what are the highlights of what we've done and what do we think it's going to do for us as a polystyrene industry?
Can you see me?
I see a still photo. You've just become just like Erin.
Okay.
You're gonna have a glamour shot.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the glamour shot like hers. But,
no, it'll be fine once it uploads. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about it, fundamentally, I mean, again, it's the coming together of the value chain in this space to recognize that, there's an important issue here, which is improving the sustainability of the materials we manufacture. That's just an important thing to accomplish for just several basic reasons. It's the right thing to do. We expect it of ourselves. Our customers expect it of us. Society expects it. So, and there are some technical challenges, but they are all solvable. They're not solvable individually, but collectively we can bring to bear the resources and the knowledge to solve them. And we're demonstrating that we can do that. So, I would say, again, getting formed as an alliance, working together collaboratively, both within our industry and then reaching out and engaging others in other industries, in the legislative halls, and with a lot of these NGOs that are genuinely concerned about these issues, and coming together to find common ground and advance real practical solutions. Joe made the point that as he goes around, and he shares with people kind of what his company is doing to recycle EPS, that there's a lot of people who are just shocked, just surprised. And we continue to find that today. There is such a, I guess, a lack of understanding. You get kind of these sound bites that kind of get put out there about, polystyrene not being recyclable, and people just kind of take that to the bank. But nothing can be further from the truth. And so the really exciting part about all of this is we know that there's a very clear roadmap to get to where we want to go, which is seeing all of our formats considered widely recyclable. EPS transport packaging is in the lead in that advancement, and the other formats have a path to follow as well. So just really happy to see our group come together, making progress. We got a lot more work to do, And Justin, I'm excited with your leadership next year that we're going to continue to accelerate the pace.
I got big shoes to fill. I think everybody on this call will say that I think your doggedness is probably the best way for me to describe it. The effort that you put into this and just the focus that you had in this area has really driven us. And it's going to be a lot to fill on my end. But I want to jump to Joe here. So Richard was talking about getting to the 60%, the widely recycled. Why is that important? Why does that matter? Like, what does that do for the industry? Why are we even doing this? What is the purpose of the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance? I think everybody on this call understands why that is, but I want to make sure that anybody that's listening to this understands why it is we're doing what we're doing.
Well, I think the idea is to harvest the environmental benefit of EPS, frankly. I mean, if you want to take the very top level, it's providing access to recycling infrastructure so that EPS can do its job, which it does very, very well, and provide the environmental benefits that it can. A lot of the recycling of EPS today is done business to business. So folks like the big box stores will go out and make an appliance delivery. They'll take the materials, the corrugate, the plastic, the EPS. They'll collect it up and recycle all the materials, including the EPS. They'll bring it back to a master distribution center and identify the EPS. And then sell it to a recycler, and it goes right back into the ecosystem in a very, very tight loop. Actually, a model of a tight loop of a recycling of a material. By expanding that access beyond the current infrastructure, that will allow then consumers who are receiving packages that dropped off at their house to have a convenient way to take the EPS that they're receiving and get it properly recycled. Currently, the material recovery facilities, or MRFs, in general are not taking EPS. That's on the move. There are facilities that are doing that, and they're doing extremely good job of recycling the EPS at these several MRFs. But that needs to be expanded. In the interim, expanding this access through drop-off locations to that goal, 60% of the population, is very important. With that 60%, we are now termed widely recyclable, and that then gives the people who are using EPS today, the manufacturers of appliances, furniture, et cetera, gives them a permission structure to continue using that material.
Yeah. So not only is it the right thing to do, it's the right business thing to do, because we're reusing material that's already out there, and it's a valuable commodity. So you were talking about EPS being collected B2B. Rigid is also very similar. There are medical facilities, you got test trays, everything else. It's all picked up B2B. There's just not a lot of polystyrene packaging out there when you look at just relative to other plastics. So we're about 3% of the packaging market, just in general, polystyrene. But when you look at it, not just polymers, it's even less than that. So if you factor in glass, metal, paper, we're a very small piece. And so you look at organizations that are trying to make a difference for reducing waste in the environment. They look at polystyrene and they say, well, we can get rid of that. But then they don't realize just what little impact that actually has. So I wanted to bring in Erin on this because I think it's important to understand from like an advocacy regulatory perspective why the 60% is important. So Erin, do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a couple of reasons. I mean, given EPR's kind of sweeping takeover in many states in the West, the new mandates essentially say, look, if you want to sell your product here in state X, there needs to be a minimum recycled content percentage. So if you can't hit that, then I think you're gonna have a tough time doing business, excuse me, in certain places. So it's vital. A, you have to adhere to what the statute says, but B, as we know, it is better for circularity. It's simple as that. And I think the problem is what lawmakers don't realize when they're banning products, they're hurting it's counterintuitive to them, but they're hurting the recycling ability of materials to be baled into complete, finality and circularity. And I don't even know that they don't even realize that they're doing it.
Yeah.
That's the effect that it has. If you're saying we can't have plastic film in X, we can't have water, we can't have PET water bottles, we can't have, and it's
well intentioned, though, right?
It is.
Everybody's
It is
trying to do the right thing.
Indeed, and I think that's the frustrating part. But
yeah, that's why data and facts are important. And I think when we look at what the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance has done, we focused very early on that we had to own our story. We had to own the data. We had to really focus on what is the recycling access. Because when we first started this whole endeavor, we had no idea what the recycling access rate was because nobody had done a study on it. And then when we did it, we came up with the 105 million Americans, nearly 1/3, have the ability to recycle one or more items. That's much higher than I thought it was going to be. Complete transparency. I thought it was going to be much, much lower than that. So we had a better starting point than we thought we did. And then as we've gone through this and we've learned and we've talked to NGOs, we've talked to regulators, we figured out that end markets are a huge deal. So then we went out and we did an end market study. So now we know where the end markets are for our materials. So now the goal is, how do we connect what's being collected to where it can be reused? And the EPS industry is a great example of how that's happening today. It's circular. The end markets are where it's being collected from in many cases. So it's a really great story. But then we got to continue to do that for foam food service. How do we increase our rigid polystyrene packaging? But then also, how do we increase EPS? EPS is a great story, EPS transport packaging, but we want to do more of it. We want to be the gold standard for recycling when you look at polymers, and we want to continue to grow that. So go ahead, Joe.
It's interesting that this kind of data gathering and fact-based approach is actually starting to have a very significant impact on the folks that we're talking to. With folks like the U.S. Plastics Pact, who actually has EPS on the list of problematic and unnecessary materials, has really opened up and is very carefully listening to data and facts about the what's actually happening with EPS and polystyrene in general, which is different than I think some experience that we've had in the past. There's been new leadership there, very open to the conversation. Actually, some of the members, Polystyrene Recycling Alliance, Justin and myself in particular, are members of the U.S. Plastics Pact, and I've been nothing but encouraged on what I'm seeing in the interactions that I've been having with them throughout 2020, late 2024, and all of 2025.
So, quick disclaimer. Once again, this podcast has nothing to do with my day job. This is my personal podcast. But yes, in my day job, I am within the U.S. Plastics Pact. And I got to give a quick shout out to Jonathan Quinn. Great leadership there. He's been highly engaged. He's working with the industry. He's pulling in groups that I never thought possible. The fact that the ACC joined the U.S. Plastics Pact, it shocks me that they decided to go that direction. But that shows the kind of influence that the U.S. Plastics Pact has. It's making change. It's driving change, and it's making circularity the focus. And it should be. Let's be clear. It really should be. Our products need to have a good story, and they need to be circular. So I just wanted to throw that out real quick. But Richard, when you look at 2026 and beyond, what's there left to do? What do we need to do as an organization? Where do we go next? Kind of your thoughts on kind of what we need to do.
No, that's good. Thank you for that. So, I would say a lot of it is going to be more of the same. We've made a lot of progress, but we've got to continue to move the ball forward on getting our materials collected and then connected to the end markets that want them as feedstocks. That is the path that we need to accelerate, because that drives higher recycling and all of the things that come with it that we all want. So we've got to stay laser focused on that. And then I think just as we continue to do that and demonstrate that, we've got to continue engaging in these conversations with stakeholders to make sure that polystyrene gets a fair shake when it comes to kind of how it's considered, how it's classified, how it's assessed fees and these various regulatory schemes, to support recycling. I think you said earlier, I forget who it was, but it was all about kind of aligning around the facts. And so we've got to continue to bring those facts forward, make sure that they are considered, acknowledged, and utilized in the process. So it's really more of the same. We've got to continue driving much greater circularity, and then continue to make sure that we can help stakeholders understand our material for what it is.
Yeah. Joe, your thoughts?
It's going forward. It's I think more of the same and expanding. I think the progress that we've made over this past year has been exemplary. Getting the word out is starting to have an effect. I think the regulators are listening more carefully than they were, I think, at the end of 2024. Companies who are using EPS are listening very carefully to the recycling story and thinking twice about how they're going forward with packaging materials, with EPS being the material that they want to continue to use, and they're the large part they're going to continue to use. And then the continuation of the projects, the demonstration projects that PSRA has been funding. These are exemplary local projects that are influencing the recycling infrastructure of individual areas, but which have the ability, if the model works, to expand regionally or even nationally. Those sorts of impacts are potentially very large and very long-lasting.
Yeah, I look at Circular Colorado specifically. I don't want to pick out favorites in the projects that we've funded so far, but the first one that we did it really is a regional, at least statewide, but then the surrounding states are going to be impacted as well for collection of expanded polystyrene. And I look at that, if we can prove that works, how easily that is to replicate. And easy is the wrong word, because there's a lot that goes into building what Circular Colorado built prior to even us becoming involved. And so if we can show at a national scale that, look at this example, and see the people that are on the ground doing it, let's replicate that in Tennessee. Let's replicate that in Illinois. Let's replicate that all across the country, because that is the way to make this circular. And we've got other projects that we're working on, and we're going to solve things there too. And we can do that on a city by city basis. But if we can get state buy-in in the way that Circular Colorado has, in working with the state of Colorado, and getting funding and really being engaged in that process, I think we can solve EPS, rigid polystyrene recycling issues, and just plastics in general, films, everything else that right now is considered hard to recycle. That's how we solve this. And it's public-private partnerships. It's trade groups working together. And it's not just our trade group. It's EPSIA. It's plastics. It's Flexible Film Recycling Alliance. Everybody pulling in the same direction is how we solve for all this. Mm-hmm. So, Erin, I know you mentioned a little bit ago EPR, but EPR has become much more of a talking point for my customer base. Let me just say it from that perspective. I know that people at our level have been talking about this for years, but I think it's just now starting to hit with some of our customers now that they're getting charged in Oregon. How do you think that's going to change how packaging's done in the U.S.? I know that's a loaded question, but just from your perspective, what do you think that's going to do to the marketplace?
Well, a couple of things. Lawsuits notwithstanding, I think people have to be more creative. And I think to your point about working together, different associations pulling and rowing in the same direction, I think it's really important that we coalesce around ideas and percentages and all the big dates and rates and talk of source reduction and get together and unite on some things, because there's kind of a patchwork across the country, right? What the version in Washington State of EPR is slightly different than the version in Maryland and then the version in Minnesota. So it makes it difficult for producers to answer your question, Justin. And it's hard. They have to comply, right? So it costs businesses a lot of money. And I hate to admit, but I think at the end of the day, that was kind of the plan by a lot of folks was, look, let's make it really difficult for folks, and then they just won't make plastic anymore. And that's not the solution. So you got to be creative and pragmatic.
Yeah. So, Richard, I know you'd mentioned that EPR was going to be a big focus point for PSRA in 26. What are we going to do to engage on EPR? Like what's the thought process? How do we view ourselves in trying to make a difference in that space?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that. I come back to the 2 points that I raised earlier. I think it's about first, well, these are jointly, but one of them is making sure that our materials get classified as recyclable and on the list of recyclables, because they are recyclable. Mm-hmm. They're being recycled today, and they're on a path to much greater recycling, and we can demonstrate that, prove that, and continue to accelerate that. So we need to make sure they get included on the list of recyclables. And as we do that, we need to make sure that they are considered in a transparent and fair light along with other materials, such that whatever fees get assigned to them to support that circularity effort is based on real data that is accurate and is fair, and not based upon perceptions that are not grounded in science and data. So it's those two things: making sure they are considered recyclable, and making sure that fees for them are assessed thoughtfully, accurately, and fairly.
Joe, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that also, PSRA trying to encourage the ecosystem to boost up the rate of recycling in whatever way possible. The collection for consumers is one, but also trying to influence the commercial side to increase the recycling infrastructure, so that the rates of actual EPS recycling continue to improve.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about improving polystyrene, and the one thing that I get a lot on the internet is, well, you have a conflict of interest because you work for the polystyrene industry. You make money based on sales, all that good stuff. Why polystyrene? why are we focused on solving for polystyrene? I want to talk about the benefits of our products and why it is that it's important for us to save our materials. So I want to start with Richard. From your perspective, why polystyrene? Why are we doing all of this?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And when you step back and look at products that are in the market today, they are largely there because they are the best product for a given application based on consumer need. Whether it's plastic, whether it's paper, aluminum, glass, you name it, that's why it exists today. And that these products are typically very highly engineered to serve a particular purpose. Polystyrene, as we know, is used in a wide variety of applications. It is used in packaging. It's also used in medical applications. It's used in appliances. It's used in just a variety of products that make people's lives better. And so, as it is considered in the context of this packaging kind of focus, we want to make sure that it is reviewed through the lens of accurate science and data. It's the best product. We talk about transport packaging. Transport packaging, EPS transport packaging, is the best product for the application that it fulfills, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming from someone like myself who was in the paper industry for 30 years. I love paper. I absolutely do. But I love plastic too, and aluminum and glass and all of these other things. And I think that it's important that we continue to be very thoughtful and accurate about how we think about materials, because these materials collectively make our lives better. Think about just plastic broadly and what it's done for food packaging. Go into a grocery store. Look at all of the food that's there, whether it's fresh, whether it's frozen. Plastic packaging is incredible. So is paper. So are other things.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is all about making sure that these products that make our lives better are very thoughtfully considered as we all continue working together to make sure that post-use materials get collected and repurposed.
Joe, why EPS?
Yeah, the challenge with EPS is on the collection and the recycling, right? And we're working hard to improve that. From a performance standpoint, it's essentially unbeatable. The material is about 95% air, so there's very little material that is needed in order to do its job. A big focus of many of these packaging EPR laws is reduction of the weight of material that's being used for packaging. Can't do much better than EPS in terms of weight versus performance. The cost structure is phenomenal. Again, it's 95% air, very cost effective. It can be molded very readily. Therefore, designing the material to do a job really well is a very, very straightforward thing to do. And then finally, some of the alternatives are not as pretty as one thinks. The drumbeat out there a lot of times that I hear is, well, just put it in corrugate. We'll put it in corrugate. We'll put it in corrugate. Paper is a great material, but the recycling of paper is not all butterflies and unicorns. Paper industry is the 6th largest polluter in the U.S. of air and water. The recycling of paper generates 65% of the water pollution, 25% of the air pollution as virgin paper. The material going into the atmosphere and water is really nasty. Cadmium, lead, dioxin, you name it. And then on in terms of just resource use, there's no other industry that uses more water than the paper industry. And so that's both virgin and recycling. And one of the numbers that blew me away was that it takes 2.5 gallons of water to make one single 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Just unbelievable. So, you have to consider all the alternatives as you're looking to move from when you're trying to choose which packaging material is best for a particular application. No one material is best for all of it, including EPS or
yeah. And there are studies out there that show if you move from EPS to other packaging materials, you can get a pretty major increase in damage and returns. And if you're getting a damaged like washing machine, that's going to counteract any kind of packaging change you make.
Yeah, from an environment, not only from the cost perspective, but from an environmental perspective as well. I'm told, I haven't seen the report, I'm told that there's an ISTA report coming out that will show that going from EPS to other packaging materials results in a damage rate increase of about 30%.
Yeah,
so
that's a material number. That's not just like 1% to 2%. And so 30% more damaged TVs and all of the e-waste within a TV, that's not good. That's not good for anybody.
Very large environmental impact.
Yeah. So, Erin, I know you're not necessarily in the polystyrene industry, but you've been hanging around us for a while now. From your perspective, why is polystyrene important to save?
There's many reasons, and I don't want to be, echoing Richard, but a little bit. And, I came from the automotive space before I came to plastics. So, I would say interior trim for a car, bumpers, seat cushions for safety. There's so many other common applications. You think about the construction industry, right? Insulation, walls, roofs, etc. I mean, these are all great things, and I don't know how you replace it. And I think that's part of the conversation that has to exist. And that's our mission. But all those are great things, and kind of like what Joe said, you have to be greenhouse gas cognizant this day and age, and this product, is great out there for that reason. We're not using gallons and gallons of water, and that should make enviros pretty happy.
You would think. But at the same time, as we know, and what we've talked about in the past, is the compromise and letting our better angels dictate what we do sometimes gets in the way of a good headline and a good story and good PR when you're talking with an NGO. And it's difficult, right? Because in many cases, they do want to do the right thing. And they do want to make the world a better place. And I think everybody on this call wants the same. We all want the world to be a better place. We all want our materials to be recycled more. And I don't think anybody on this call is saying that recycling is a panacea that's going to solve all problems for plastics. That's not what we're talking about. But what we are talking about is making an impact to reduce the environmental impact of our products. And that should be the goal of every industry. It should be the goal of paper, glass, aluminum, any packaging. We should be looking at how we reduce the impact that we have on the environment. And that's not lip service, that's just fact. Because I've got 2 young kids, and I want to leave this world a better place than when I came into it. And so what I'm choosing to do is make recycling one of my main focuses, but I do want to reduce, and I do want to reuse where we can. But I think what the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance is doing is commendable. And it's something that we need more support from the industry. We've got great support so far, but we need more members. We need bigger budgets to make a bigger impact. So why don't you give an elevator pitch to any kind of organization that's out there that's listening, that's involved in the polystyrene value chain in any way, shape, or form? What is it that should drive them to join the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance?
Yeah, no one company can do this alone. It's in every company's enlightened self-interest to join and put your shoulder against the rock and start pushing along with the rest of us. It's no news headline that plastics in general and polystyrene maybe in particular is under the microscope, and in some cases even under attack, and we need to be pushing back as a unit. Myself, my company can't do it alone. No one company can do it alone, but together we can influence NGOs. Together we can talk to regulators in our states, in other states, and make sure that the polystyrene is getting fair shake. We're not asking for special treatment, just we want a fair shake. Together, we can talk to our customers and our customers' customers and work with them to increase recycling of all polystyrene. It's about no one company is going to do it alone. And it's in your enlightened self-interest to join this organization and start working with the rest of us to make positive change.
Yeah, so I'll just add to what Joe has said there. You know, if the sustainability of the products that you make for your customers is important to you, then you should seriously consider joining PSRA to help advance the improvements that we all want to achieve. And one other thing I will point out is that we have learned a lot more in the last year by working together than we knew before when we were kind of in separate silos.
Mm-hmm.
And an example of that is that in the EPS industry, there are manufacturers that will use a wide variety of EPS for their feedstocks, including clean food service and food packaging. Not all of them, but some of them. And we're learning that that is opening doors to recyclability for some of those products that previously didn't have as many recycling options. So we're learning all kinds of things about how we can work together to advance the circularity and sustainability of all of our products.
I would say from a political lens, Justin, when you come at a policy issue with legislators, staff, regulatory bodies, governors, NGOs, ENGOs, I've worked for all the above and against. If you have a united front and you're working towards a goal together, you're usually going to be more successful when you're coming at it with a larger team. I know it's so basic, but it's true. You're united in message, you're united in goal, and you charge forward. And then you win on the merits and on the data. And it's if you have 30 people saying the same thing versus a patchwork of 10 different companies saying different things at different times, you're not going to be as successful. So united you stand.
I think that's a good advertisement for plastics too. So not just polystyrene, but plastics is doing that for all plastics.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a good call for people to join plastics as well. So I've been saying this for a long time. Everybody within this industry has the ability to do exactly what I'm doing, but even better. Like, I'm no communications expert, but I decided I wanted to start pushing back against misinformation, and I wanted to do a podcast to highlight recycling and how we can actually make a difference and make it better. Everybody in this industry has that ability. Everybody can get out there and talk to legislators, and they can talk to their neighbors about our products and why they're important. And the why is the most important part, in my opinion. And so, to echo Erin's point, that's all great on a personal one-on-one. But when we're talking about making changes in legislation, we're talking about making changes in EPR, changing hearts and minds, we really need that united front. So if you are in the polystyrene industry and you're not involved today, you're not in the battle. Battle's probably a strong word, but if you're not here and you're not at the table, you're going to be on the menu. And we would really love to have a bigger coalition. Not only does that give us more money to put into infrastructure projects to actually make this happen, but it gives us more voices that can, to Richard's point, highlight things that we weren't even aware of that were going on out there. The more people that we have at the table, the more diverse viewpoints that we have, the better off we're going to be as an organization. So I would highly encourage anybody that's listening to this to join the PSRA if you're in polystyrene. If you're not in polystyrene and you're not a member of plastics, that's also a good call too. That's something to really drive people and to drive the outcomes that we know are the best solutions for the environment. So we talked about a lot so far today. I want to give everybody on the call maybe a minute and a half to kind of wrap it up. Like where your head's at. I want to start with Joe and we'll go from there.
I'm encouraged by what the industry is doing. There is a headwind in terms of EPR laws, but we are addressing those, and I think in general we're going to be in good shape. I'm encouraged by what I see from this alliance and other alliances in terms of people working together to try to change the narrative. And I'm encouraged by the associations who are large users of our materials, the American Home Furnishings Alliance, the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers. Those organizations very much want to keep EPS as a viable choice, and this organization is going to help ensure that is indeed the case going forward.
Awesome. Thanks again, Justin, for having us and letting us, sing the gospel. I think just going forward, I think we are a group which we are putting grant dollars and activation projects in towns and cities in America. So we're not just talking, we're actually doing. And I think that's what kind of makes us different than a lot of other groups in the country right now. So I think that's the value add that we bring. Not only the subject matter experts, the companies, we're working with cities and towns, and it's a great stakeholder lesson that you can do things together when you have great leadership like Richard and Joe, and we're all doing it together. And I hate to be all kumbaya, but it's true. So it's nice to have action and not just words. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna reiterate something I said earlier. Richard, thank you. Thank you for everything you've done year one. I think everybody on this call and everybody in the organization will agree that your leadership has been highly influential in the success that we've seen year one. But I also want to let you give your 1 minute wrap up. I wanted to throw that in first, though.
Hey, thank you for that. But I'm just going to throw it right back at you, all right? You, Justin, Joe, Erin, we are a team. And, the thing when you think about where we're at right now is we have a track record as an alliance of moving forward to enable greater circularity of our materials. There was already a track record in place just from all the individual efforts of all the companies who've been out there. We weren't starting at ground zero. But we've definitely helped to accelerate the pace, and I think the future is very bright. We have and see a pathway to widely recyclable status for all formats of polystyrene in due course. And EPS transport packaging is right out in front. Others have a clear path to follow. So I would just say, look, we've done it. We've proved that we can do it. Let's continue to turn the court here next year. Justin, looking at you as you take the baton and continue to lead the organization going forward. And I'm really excited and optimistic about 2026.
Justin, we look forward to your insight and leadership going forward.
Yeah. I honestly, I couldn't say it any better than Richard did, so I've got nothing to add. But thank you all for jumping on today. Thank you to the polystyrene industry for coming together and showing that, hey, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. Yeah. And if you are in the industry and you want to join, reach out to any one of us. We're very accessible. We would love to have conversation with you. And then for the group on the call and for myself, Justin Riney, this has been the Redefining Plastics Podcast. Thank you all very much and have a great night. If you want to learn more about the plastics industry, recycling, check out these other videos.
Please like and subscribe.